An Antarctica cruise. Just saying it out loud feels epic, right? It's the bucket list of bucket lists. Towering icebergs glowing blue in the midnight sun. Penguins waddling past you on pristine, snow-covered beaches. Zodiac boats gliding across water so clear you can see humpback whales just beneath the surface. Sounds like the trip of a lifetime. But here's the catch. What cruise brochures and glossy Instagram posts don't show you is that Antarctica is not your average cruise destination. The rules are stricter, the conditions are harsher, and the hidden realities can make or break your entire trip. That's exactly what this video is about. I'm going to show you what no one tells you until it's too late. Things that can shock you, frustrate you, or completely change your expectations if you don't know them beforehand. By the end, you'll have the full picture of what an Antarctica cruise is really like, both the challenges and the magic. So let's start with the first thing nobody expects. Number 1. You don't actually land in Antarctica the way you think. Most people picture this. The ship pulls up to a white, icy shore, a gangway lowers, and you step straight off onto Antarctica. Boom, bucket list complete. But that's not how it works. Large cruise ships aren't allowed to dock directly in Antarctica. In fact, most aren't even allowed to let passengers disembark. Instead, the standard way to reach land is by Zodiac boat, small inflatable craft that shuttle you from ship to shore. Now that sounds simple enough, but here's the kicker. Weather controls everything. If conditions are too rough, even just slightly, you might not get to land at all. Expedition leaders will cancel Zodiac trips if wind or ice make them unsafe, and it's not uncommon for entire days of landings to be scrapped. So yes, you can technically go on an Antarctica cruise and never actually step foot on the continent. It happens. And that's something people don't realize until they're on board. It's not like a Caribbean cruise where docking at the beach is guaranteed. Here, the elements decide whether you get the ultimate payoff moment of stepping on Antarctica itself. And that uncertainty is a huge part of the experience. Sometimes thrilling, sometimes frustrating. Number 2. The Drake Passage is brutal, and it's unavoidable. Here's another shocker. To even get to Antarctica, you have to cross the Drake Passage, the stretch of ocean between South America's Cape Horn and the Antarctic Peninsula. It's about 500 miles wide, and it's legendary for some of the roughest seas on Earth. Brochures will call it the adventure before the adventure. Travel blogs will joke about the Drake Shake. But what that really means is that swells can reach 20 to 30 feet, and the ship rocks like a roller coaster for 2 days straight. Now, sometimes you get lucky and hit the Drake Lake, where it's relatively calm, but you can't count on that. Most people will experience at least some rough conditions, and if you're prone to seasickness, this crossing can be absolutely brutal. It's not uncommon for half the passengers to be knocked out in their cabins, surviving on crackers and seasickness pills while the ship lurches and creaks around them. Even walking down a hallway can feel like climbing uphill and then sliding down again. The passage is unavoidable. You have to cross it twice, on the way down and on the way back. So preparation matters. Motion sickness patches, prescription medication, ginger chews, wristbands, whatever works for you, bring it. Because nothing will ruin your once-in-a-lifetime trip faster than spending 4 days of it curled up in bed, too sick to move. And here's the thing nobody tells you. Even if you handle it fine, the Drake Passage sets the tone. It reminds you right away that Antarctica is not a casual vacation. It's an expedition, and the ocean will test you before you even arrive. Number 3. Wildlife isn't a Disney movie. Everyone imagines Antarctica as an endless parade of penguins, whales, and seals, like some sort of icy Disney documentary where animals pose for your camera. The truth is more complex. Yes, you'll see incredible wildlife, but it's not always what you expect. Penguins are adorable, but they don't line up for photos. They smell. Their colonies are noisy and chaotic, and sometimes you'll trek across snow for an hour only to find a few scattered birds in the distance. Whales? They're not guaranteed. Some expeditions spot them daily. Others go a whole week without a single close encounter. Same with seals. You might see them sprawled on the ice, barely moving, or not at all. And here's another thing the brochures skip. You can't approach or touch the animals. Antarctica has some of the strictest wildlife interaction rules in the world. You have to stay several meters away at all times, even if an animal comes toward you. Guides are strict about this. It's not negotiable. That means you won't be cuddling penguins or posing next to seals. The magic is in observing them in their natural state, not staging a postcard photo. And that's actually what makes it special. It's raw, real, and untamed. But if you expect a Disney moment, you'll be disappointed. Number 4. Strict rules control everything you do. If you're used to the freedom of a Caribbean or Mediterranean cruise where you stroll off the ship, wander to town, and do your own thing, Antarctica is a very different story. Every landing, every excursion, every step you take on the continent is tightly controlled under international regulations. Antarctica is protected by the Antarctic Treaty System, and tour operators must follow strict guidelines to preserve the environment. Here's what that means in practice. Before your first landing, you'll sit through mandatory briefings on how to behave on shore. You'll have to vacuum your clothes and gear to remove seeds or dirt that could introduce invasive species. You'll disinfect your boots before and after every excursion to prevent spreading microbes. Only a limited number of passengers, usually around 100, are allowed on land at a time. That last one is especially important. If you're on a larger ship, you may have to wait your turn for hours before you can go ashore, or you might miss certain landings entirely. On top of that, guides enforce distance rules with wildlife, time limits for landings, and group sizes for hikes. You don't wander off alone in Antarctica. Everything is structured. For some people, this adds to the sense of importance. You realize you're in a place so fragile it demands respect. But for others, it can feel surprisingly restrictive, especially compared to the freedom of traditional cruises. Either way, it's something people don't expect until they experience it. Antarctica isn't a casual playground. It's one of the most protected environments on Earth, and the rules are there to make sure it stays that way. Number 5. Cabins feel different in the polar regions. On most cruises, your cabin is just a place to crash between meals, shows, and shore days. But in Antarctica, your cabin becomes something else entirely, your personal refuge. Why? Because outside is harsh. You'll spend hours bouncing in Zodiac boats, hiking across snow in freezing winds, or standing on the deck in icy spray. After that, when you stumble back to your room, it's not just a cabin, it's your only warm, private retreat. And that's where things get interesting. The cabin you choose can dramatically shape your trip. Interior rooms, which are usually fine in the Caribbean, can feel like coffins when you're trapped there during rough seas in the Drake Passage. No windows, no horizon to steady your stomach, just 4 walls and the sound of a ship creaking in stormy water. Balcony cabins sound glamorous, but in practice, they're rarely used the way you think. Sitting outside in -5-degree wind with spray freezing on the railing isn't exactly relaxing. Instead, the balcony becomes a quick spot for photos or a breath of fresh air, not an outdoor lounge. What really matters in Antarctica is stability. Midship cabins on lower decks move less in heavy seas, which can make all the difference during the Drake. People who don't think about this ahead of time often regret it, wishing they had sacrificed a balcony view for a steadier stomach. In short, in Antarctica, your cabin is more than a place to sleep. It's your safe zone. Choose wisely, because you'll rely on it more than you expect. Number 6. The cold isn't the hardest part. Ask anyone who hasn't been, and they'll say the hardest thing about Antarctica is the cold. But here's the twist. Most Antarctica cruises happen during the austral summer, December through February, where coastal temperatures hover around 20 to 35 degrees Fahrenheit, or -6 to +2 degrees Celsius. Cold, sure, but not unbearable. What actually gets you isn't the temperature, it's the wind and the water. The katabatic winds that sweep down from the glaciers can hit suddenly and cut through clothing that felt fine 5 minutes ago. One moment you're warm and comfortable, the next you're freezing to the bone. And then there's the moisture. Zodiac rides mean icy spray soaking your gear, sometimes your face, sometimes your gloves. If your gloves aren't waterproof, your hands will ache within minutes. If your boots aren't insulated, the cold creeps in fast. That's why gear is everything. Most cruise lines issue heavy parkas, but the rest is up to you. You need thermal base layers, waterproof pants, insulated gloves, balaclavas, wool socks, the works. Forget fashion. This is about survival comfort. Travelers who try to wing it with ski gear or regular winter coats quickly find themselves miserable. And here's another surprise. Overheating is also a problem. You'll hike across snow in multiple layers, sweating inside your parka, only to stop for a photo and instantly chill when the wind hits your damp clothes. Managing layers becomes a daily skill, adding, shedding, adjusting constantly. So yes, it's cold, but the hardest challenge is staying dry, managing sweat, and battling winds. That's the Antarctic reality you won't see on Instagram. Number 7. Days blur together because there's no night. One of the most surreal parts of an Antarctica cruise is the light. During peak season, the continent experiences nearly 24 hours of daylight. The sun hovers low, casting a golden globe across the ice, even at midnight. It's otherworldly, like living on a planet with different rules. At first, it feels magical. You'll find yourself wide awake at 2 a.m., standing on deck, watching icebergs glow in the midnight sun. Photographers love it, because that golden hour basically lasts all day. But after a few days, the novelty wears off and the disorientation sets in. Your body craves darkness. Sleep gets tricky. Some passengers find themselves restless at night, sluggish during the day, or waking up at odd hours. Your internal clock has no anchor. Expedition staff often warn you about this, but it still catches people off guard. Blackout masks help, but not everyone brings them. Some travelers start closing curtains tight and sticking to strict routines: breakfast, landings, dinner, bed, just to keep rhythm. Others lean into it and embrace the strangeness. It's not something you see in marketing, but it's a very real part of the experience. In Antarctica, time itself feels slippery. Days blur together, and the absence of night changes how you experience everything. Number 8. Internet is practically non-existent. If you think Wi-Fi is bad on Caribbean cruises, wait until you try Antarctica. Satellite coverage in polar regions is patchy at best. Connections drop frequently, speeds crawl, and many expedition ships ration bandwidth to keep navigation systems prioritized. Some lines even ban video calls and streaming entirely. That means no Netflix, no Zoom, sometimes not even reliable email. For a week or two, you are truly off the grid. Some passengers love this. They embrace the digital detox, reveling in the chance to disconnect from work and social media. For others, it's panic-inducing, especially when they realize they can't easily check in with family. The smart move is to prepare as if you'll be unreachable. Tell loved ones you'll be offline. Set up email auto-replies. Download books, movies, and music beforehand. Because once you're down there, what you've got on your devices is all you'll have. And honestly, that lack of connection is part of the magic. When was the last time you spent a week fully present, with no notifications, no pings, no distractions, just you, the ice, and the wildlife? It's one of the hidden gifts of Antarctica, but it only feels like a gift if you're ready for it. Number 9. Landings are a physical workout. When people think cruise, they imagine buffets, lounging by pools, maybe gentle sightseeing. Antarctica flips that expectation upside down. Here, even just getting ashore is a workout. Every landing involves boarding a Zodiac boat, small inflatable craft that bounce in icy water. You'll climb down a gangway while the ship rocks in swells, then step carefully onto a boat bobbing against the hull. Crew members help, but balance is key. Now imagine doing this in bulky boots and heavy parkas, with waves splashing over the side. And once ashore, it doesn't get any easier. There are no docks, no paved paths, no handrails. You land on rocky beaches, icy slopes, or snowbanks. From there, it's hikes up ridges, trudges through snow, and slippery climbs. Even a short walk feels like cardio when you're bundled in layers and boots. For younger or active travelers, this feels exhilarating. For others, it can be surprisingly exhausting. Mobility issues make it tough, and even moderate fitness is tested. The brochures rarely highlight this, but Antarctica is active, not passive. If you want to truly experience it, you'll be climbing, hiking, and bracing yourself in boats every day. Number 10. Weather decides everything. Here's the single most important truth. In Antarctica, nature is the boss. Expedition leaders can plan, but the weather decides. A calm morning can turn into gale-force winds by afternoon. A landing site that looks perfect may be blocked by ice floes. Entire days of activities can vanish in a single announcement from the bridge. This unpredictability frustrates some travelers. They expect a cruise-style guarantee: X excursions, Y activities. But Antarctica doesn't work like that. The itinerary is always tentative, subject to change, sometimes drastically. Yet this is also what makes the experience authentic. No two expeditions are the same. Your trip will be different from mine, and that uniqueness is part of the allure. One group might spend hours with breaching whales. Another might explore hidden coves no ship visited the year before. It teaches patience, flexibility, and humility. Antarctica doesn't bend to you. You bend to it. And when you accept that, the journey becomes far richer. Number 11. Prices hide a lot of extra costs. Everyone knows Antarctica cruises are expensive, but what catches people off guard are the hidden extras. The base fare alone often starts around $10,000 to $15,000 per person, but that's just the beginning. Flights to Ushuaia or Punta Arenas can add thousands more, especially since those aren't cheap routes. Then there's the gear. Expedition parkas are usually included, but boots, waterproof pants, gloves, and thermal layers are your responsibility. High-quality gear isn't cheap. Easily $500 to $1,000 per person if you don't already own it. Insurance is another must. Most operators require proof of emergency medical and evacuation coverage, and polar policies are more expensive than standard travel insurance. And don't forget the add-ons. Some cruises offer optional activities like kayaking, camping, or mountaineering. These are once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, and they're priced that way. It's hard to say no when you're already there, which means your budget can swell quickly. By the time everything is tallied, many travelers find the true cost double what they originally planned. And that's not to scare you off. It's to make sure you plan realistically. Antarctica isn't just a vacation, it's an investment. Number 12. The reward is worth the struggle. After everything, the seasickness, the strict rules, the unpredictable weather, the high price, you might wonder, is it really worth it? The answer from almost everyone who's been is yes. Because Antarctica has a way of humbling you, inspiring you, and staying with you forever. Standing on deck, watching a cathedral of ice drift silently by, hearing the crack of a glacier calving into the sea, watching a line of penguins march across a snowy ridge under the midnight sun. These aren't just sights. They're moments that shift how you see the planet. One passenger describes it like this: in Antarctica, you don't just see nature, you feel like nature is letting you in for a glimpse, then closing the door again. Yes, it's challenging. Yes, it's expensive, but that's exactly why it's unforgettable. The effort makes the reward sweeter. The unpredictability makes the experiences more real, and the restrictions remind you just how fragile this last untouched frontier really is. So now you know the truth. Antarctica cruises aren't like anything else. You don't always land where you think. The Drake Passage will test your stomach. The wildlife isn't a guaranteed show. The rules are strict, the weather unpredictable, and the costs higher than you expect. But if you go in with open eyes, prepared for the challenges, and willing to embrace the unpredictability, you'll walk away with something most people never get: a raw, unfiltered encounter with the most remote wilderness on Earth. Now, I want to hear from you. Would you take on the Drake Passage and all the challenges to see Antarctica yourself? Or is it too extreme for your taste? Share your thoughts in the comments. I always enjoy reading your perspectives. And don't stop here. Click the next video on screen now to keep exploring the hidden side of cruising. And don't forget, check the link in the description to grab your free guide with 50 insider cruise hacks. Whether it's Antarctica or your next Caribbean trip, those tips will save you money and make your voyages smoother. Your voyage is just beginning.